Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm John Rosenthal. I'm the president of TCRDF, and I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to this research and contracts roundtable today. TCRDF has the purpose of forming and managing partnerships between emerging research institutions and other research entities. The purpose is to build the capacity in those institutions so that they can literally participate to a great degree in federal research activities and in private sector research and contracts. We recognize the fact that institutions that rely a great deal on tuition can no longer do that. And to help them diversify their income, our goal is to help institutions learn and understand the value of a robust research portfolio and how it provides new opportunities for families, for students, for faculty, and for the institution itself, because the indirect portion of research certainly supports the school's bottom line. So thank you all for coming to join us today. We have a very star-studded lineup of speakers today who will be talking to you about the various elements of research and how it benefits institutions. And we thank all of them for joining us. To kick off our discussion today, we have Dr. Lonnie Sharp and Dr. Cynthia Warwick to speak about research activities, and then they will turn it over to the next speaker, who will tell us some of the experiences that we have in research right now. We certainly appreciate everybody joining us today, and we look forward to building new partnerships and strengthening old partnerships as a result of what we discussed and determined today. So with that, I'm going to ask Dr. Sharp and Dr. Warwick to now give us some of their concepts about and some of their experiences with working with TCRDF and the research activities that we are trying to bring to the forefront. Dr. Sharp, Dr. Warwick.
Okay, Dr. Warwick, do you want to begin?
No, I think you should begin, Dr. Sharp.
All right. Not a problem at all. Anyway, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lonnie Sharp. I work with TCRDF. I retired both from North Carolina A&T State University as well as Tennessee State University. The most important thing I think that we need to focus on as part of the research and development is to go back and look at an overall strategic plan that has been developed by the university. This document needs to be a living document that you go by to help you to facilitate the ins and outs of the university and some specific things that you need to do to ensure that you're going to be successful. So today I want to share with you some of my insights associated with some of my experiences at Tennessee State University and at North Carolina A&T State University about research and how you can be successful in the research environment. I know that when I first went to Tennessee State, I was already involved in a research program or educational program funded by the National Science Foundation. The focus was on increasing the number of degrees awarded to minority students in STEM disciplines. And when I got to Tennessee State University, we didn't have such a program. And I wanted to ensure that we could do all that we could in terms of increasing the degree productivity of minority STEM students in the state of Tennessee. So I focus on getting a collaboration in place that it would include the four-year institutions, some of the two-year institutions, the traditional white institutions, the HBCUs, and to figure out how we could increase our overall degree productivity. And so for me, my focus was to contact all the provosts and ask them if they wanted to participate. And as it turns out, we created a viable program in the state of Tennessee that included Vanderbilt, UT Knoxville, TSU, University of Memphis, Lamar College, Fisk University, and Middle Tennessee State University. The good thing about all that is that we had to develop a plan for us to be successful, and it had to be a document that they all believed in, and in itself had to believe in as well. And so I want to say that program became um, one of the most important programs in the state of Tennessee to increase degree productivity among these institutions. So one thing I do want to say is that you have to develop some capacities when you start talking about research in general. I would just give you a specific example of what we did to enhance and create this program in Tennessee that relates to degree productivity. Um, if you planning to degree to create a research program, the focus is on building your capacity in terms of the research area. And so to me, there are some basic things that you have to do. You have to make sure that you have the infrastructure in place. You have to make sure that you have a pre-awards program and post-award programs. And to do that, you need to make sure that everyone is on board in terms of ensuring that these efforts are going to be successful. So for me, even when I wrote the proposal for the Lewis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation for the state of Tennessee, I met with the program officers. So it's critically important that before you submit your proposal, that anything that you're trying to do in terms of getting research dollars is that you got to build the foundation that you're going to be successful by meeting the program managers, by meeting other folks at the program office that will help you to be successful in all the things that you're trying to do. Uh, the key thing that we had to do as part of that overall program was to create a budget that we all could believe in and work together on. And anytime you write a proposal that includes a number of institutions, everyone got to feel like they are part of the effort, that they receive their fair share of the dollars. And so for us to do that, we created a plan where the funds available was based upon your degree productivity. Since our focus was on degree productivity, that's what we focus on. And so the awards were made to the institutions based upon the number of degrees that you were graduating presently and what your projections were going to be as we move forward. And to me, if you do that, I do believe that everyone may agree that this is something that we believe in. This is something that we can do, and I say that we were successful. Now, the other thing that you have to do in terms of getting the program funded is that once you get it funded, you got to make sure that your campus has in place a post awards effort. When I say post award, you got to make sure that you create a budget on your campus, that you allocate funding to support that project as part of that funding account. You want to make sure that as part of that effort, that your expenditures are done timely. One of the biggest problems that a number of HBCUs have is that they don't spend their money timely. And if you don't spend your money timely, then there's a chance that you could lose your funding support from the federal agency. So uh, it's important that you have drawdowns on a regular basis. Typically, what I always say is that your report should be done monthly, your drawdowns should be done at least quarterly, but I prefer that they be done monthly. That way, you can ensure that all of the efforts that you put in place are working, and the federal agency will be happy to know that the funding that they have awarded you are being used appropriately, and that you ensure that they get what they're looking for and you get what you're looking for. And one last thing I do want to say is that once you put in place the overall university research infrastructure at your institutions, you want to do all that you can to ensure that you're going to be successful. A lot of times there are research dollars that are part of that. You want to make sure that the faculty members are given the time to do the research timely. So you want to make sure that you give them release time to do that. A lot of times there are overhead dollars that are generated We're hopeful that the institution will create a plan where some of those overhead dollars get returned back to the faculty members who generated them to ensure that they get incentivized to continue to do the work in a timely manner. And one of the most important things that I found in terms of my efforts at the institutions were to create what I call an incentive for the faculty. And one of the most important incentives that I put in place when I was dean at Tennessee State University was that I arranged for startup funds to support the faculty. And I can say to you that one of the most productive faculty members that we had at Tennessee State University was one that I hired when I was the dean at Tennessee State for about 2 years. And we offered him a startup package. The research funding was there to help him get started. His equipment was in place, and he became the most productive researcher at Tennessee State University. But anyway, those are my comments about some of my experiences, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Warwick.
Thank you, Dr. Sharp, and I'm so glad you mentioned the information you did about the National Science Foundation and certainly about drawdowns on a regular basis. I agree with you. Monthly is important in that you have that research accounting office in place so that it's just done by clockwork. And the other thing I would say to add to what you were talking about is STEM faculty in general. My research focus has primarily been on the biomedical side. So at most universities, you have more biology majors than you have engineering majors. And so getting them engaged in research is critically important. But just like Dr. Sharp said, you have to have incentives for the faculty. One of the challenges that I've had with providing those incentives for faculty I was a dean of math science and technology at Elizabeth City State. I was interim president at South Carolina State, High President Conyers. I was a interim president at Grambling State University and then president at Stillman College for approximately 7 years. Where at Stillman, I raised over $12 million in NIH funding, and I did that through facility grants, training grants, SBIR programs, and many of those programs that exist, the sponsored administration programs. So it's possible to get that kind of funding at small liberal arts institutions that don't have research if you start off with training and building capacity. But in order to get the faculty to work with you on these grant applications, faculty members are not one size fit all. STEM faculty have to get paid. STEM faculty have to get release time. STEM faculty are not the same as your social science, history, and English, etc. STEM faculty have to spend more time because the students we get today are not ready for science and math. And most recently, I've been working with University of Incarnate Word and Cheney State University on capacity building NIH grants. And one of the things I can say is that we really need to start at a younger age. We need to be building capacity to work with middle schools and the K through 12s because that's where the foundations for math and science are built. And our kids are just, and I'm talking about across the board, not just HBCU students. I'm saying young people everywhere have very weak skills in math and science compared to 20 years ago. And COVID did not help that at all. Now we're seeing this huge learning loss among our young people because of COVID. So building that capacity in terms of research administration for getting grants out on time, supporting the faculty so you can start at least 9 months in advance to develop an application So those faculty can't be teaching 4 and 5 classes a semester if you want them to write grants. Where are they going to have the time to do that? And if it's STEM faculty, how are they going to do that and provide all of the attention and nurturing that these students demand today? So you're going to have to pay STEM faculty more. You're going to have to give them fewer courses to teach during the semester, recognizing that they're going to have to spend a lot more time with students in terms of building foundational knowledge. And if you want those research dollars and indirect costs that they provide, you're going to have to give them time and incentives in order to spend the time to do that. Else, why should they? The faculty are going to teach their 4 classes and go home and do that forever, and you're not going to get those rewards, and they're not going to be rewarded for that knowledge that they bring to the campus. So that's my 2 cents, Dr. Sharp, building on what you started. And if we have any time for questions, I'm sure we both could provide any additional specific information you have about, developing and building a research administration program, and build that capacity in the faculty and the students.
Thank you, Dr. Warwick. We appreciate your comments. Dr. Warwick and Dr. Sharp are both associated with TCRDF, and we will get into some of the support that TCRDF will bring to emerging research institutions. We're so proud of the partnership that we work with Purdue University, rather, I'm sorry. And Dr. Peter Romero is here to have a few comments before Dr. McCarty tells you about the research contracts shared services center. Peter?
Yes. First of all, thank you all for joining today. And I hope that you'll find this session to be very valuable. We found that it's been very important partnership working with TCRDF for actually several reasons. I think the time and effort that the TCRDF team has put into building like a very comprehensive multi-emerging research institution network has actually been really creating like a foundation to build a lot of like major projects. And that has included providing support for scale and helping to identify new universities that have joined scale, some of which are represented on today's call. But I think also they have helped with ideation for other proposals and trying to be responsive to other like kind of like larger and more ambitious activities. Many of us are individual faculty, and we kind of know how to write our own like project proposals, but building big teams that can collaborate effectively is a whole new skill set. And it's a very, I guess you could say, involved process. But I think that TCRDF is really a strong partner to work with to develop like both the foundational capabilities in terms of research preparation and proposals, but then also at a higher level to connect with like a very broad range of partners across academia. And so I did want to just emphasize that that's been very valuable for me as a current faculty member and collaborator. And I've also learned a lot from their efforts in terms of partnering and connection to other government resources and support opportunities. And I can attribute part of the success of Scale to what they're doing. So I think that working with TCRDF in the right context could be valuable for your organizations as well. So let me stop there.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Peter. Dr. McCarty? You're muted, Dr. McCarty.
You know, I do that every time, y'all. Good to know. I hope you all are doing fantastic. We are so happy to have you here today. I'm going to do a very high-level overview of the Shared Services Center concept for emerging research institutions, and we will have some time toward the end for questions. So please go ahead and put those in the chat and we'll be sure to get to them. And of course, we will schedule one-on-one calls with you and your organization. But today is just a very high level overview because we want to lend our time to the other presenters today. So the Shared Services Center, advancing research through strategic support and partnerships. A little bit about TCRDF, who was established in 2016, and we are guided by the best of the best retired senior military officers, federal executives, higher ed leaders, and our goal is simple. We're building bridges between ERIs and federal, state, and private research and development opportunities. We specialize in 3 areas: workforce development, partnership facilitation, and research and contract opportunities. And so our signature project at this time is the ERISSC, which will serve as a centralized shared services hub that helps ERIs connect, compete, and comply. We're going to work with our ERIs to connect them with complementary R1s, industry, and government partners. We're going to help with the competing for the federal and private research funds, from developing the concept to writing a proposal submission, and then comply with the administrative and reporting requirements. In our approach, we focus on partnerships, shared services, and training. So again, with the partnerships, it's all about connection. With smaller schools, we can't just lean just on our faculty. We want to partner with other schools, other industry partners, and subject matter experts. Then with the shared services, that is all about the administrative focus and compliance, from proposal development to closeout. We want to help ERI so that the faculty can just focus on the research itself. And then training. We want to make sure that we're supporting and capacity building through courses, coaching, on demand, webinars, and roundtables like what we're doing today, because eventually we want you to have what you need to just keep going, but we're here to get you started and support you along the way. And with our ERIs, our process begins with initial outreach. So you probably got an email from either me or Mr. Rosenthal. We'll have informational meetings. Then we have a membership agreement. So you'll say, hey, we're going to participate. And just because you're a member, that doesn't mean that you have to receive all the services. It may be just one particular area that you're interested in. And so that does not obligate you to participate in everything, but know that these services are available. And so after that membership agreement, we transition to a support planning call, because we're going to get into capabilities and goals and needs so that we can develop a team that is for your faculty and your campus. And so that's where the team development comes in. And so after team development, we go into the MOU. So before we actually begin, writing proposals and the actual implementation of the individual support plan, we would do an MOU. And after the MOU was formalized, finalized, we would have an official welcome and onboarding, where we introduce you to your support team. We go over the ISP again, and then we implement, and we have ongoing training, because the goal is just to increase submissions and hopefully awards for our membership institutions. So we are just excited for even the opportunity to be able to work with you. Again, we're going to have some discussions later on, so please start dropping your questions in the chat, and we're looking forward to scheduling those one-on-one calls and being your partner as you go after additional research and contracting opportunities. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Dr. McCarty. Now we get to the real engine behind the TCRDF effort here, with the individuals who will be actually helping us to build these teams, to build these support plans, and to make things work for you. Major General Byron Bagby, retired Major General Byron Bagby, retired Major General John Warden, and Dr. Ernestine Easter. General Bagby.
Well, John, thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. As John mentioned, I've been on the TCRDF board for about 5 years now, one of his directors, and enjoyed that experience. I spent a lot of my time at this stage in my life on higher education. I'm on 2 university trustee boards currently, and both of those keep me very busy in addition to everything else that I have going on. But I want to talk briefly about how the shared service center concept that we're building can help bridge the gap between ERIs and the federal government agencies, mainly DOD, which is where most of my expertise lies. And I'll talk a little bit about national importance. I'll talk about mentorship, readiness, and there at the end talk about how the shared services center concept can help with refining the DoD research ecosystem. So I'll talk about national importance. One thing that I believe the SSC concept can do for us is to expand the talent pipeline, especially with minority serving institutions that were talked about earlier, and build a diverse and broad pool of science and engineering talent, as well as in other areas. And also under that rubric, diverse perspectives and innovation. Bring in ideas from the universities and colleges, those ERIs to DOD and other federal agencies, to allow them to engage a wider range of institutions that can develop complementary research type programs. Then I'll talk about mentorship in 2 different lanes. One of those is mentorship between faculty at ERIs and DoD researchers. And the second part of that is mentorship between students and DoD and other federal agencies. When we talk about faculty to DoD mentorship, there are programs that can help connect DoD program managers, program executive officers with established researchers, mainly at leading institutions through UARCs and FFRDCs, and how that translates to ERIs, and how they conduct research that is consistent with DoD priorities. And when it comes to student mentorship, having internship programs where students can go work in the summer with various organizations, learn about research, apply what they learned during the academic year, and then when they graduate, hire them to go into some of these research institutes. Next, I'll talk about readiness for a little bit, and how when you bridge ERIs through the shared service center concept with federal agencies, it builds capacity. It strengthens the infrastructure of the ERIs and MSIs through targeted programs, and allowing them to handle very complex defense type research and contracts. Another element of readiness is streamlining processes to, we call it the flash to bang time, from a time a project is in its infancy all the way through when it can be used. Trying to streamline that process. That's another benefit of having the shared services center concept. And then early engagement and networking, being able to network with professors, faculty members, as well as students with DoD agencies in the 5 services now, as well as the Secretary of Defense's office. And finally, I'll talk about the positive impact on the research ecosystem, about how it can increase readiness by creating a diverse and distributed research base that will allow more resilience to be able to respond to turbulence in the research process. And then finally, societal benefits. Those defense research outcomes that can have an positive impact on civilian applications in the fields of cybersecurity, healthcare, infrastructure, basic processes that will impact and aid the entire our entire society. That's all I have. Thank you very much. Standing by for questions after General Wharton and Dr. Easter, finish their comments. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, General Bagby, and thanks for allowing me to come here. And again, I'm honored to be able to help the TCRDF and the Research Center for many years, and anything I can do, I'm glad to support. I led the Army's research and development, the Army Research Lab, the Art Research Development Engineering Command before it became part of RDECOM. I had over 1,500 cooperative research and development agreements with academia. And then also I was able to bridge industry in our Army Research Office is where we used to do extramural research. So as we went through this, and I'm thinking through all the things, I want to start at the top. And some of the things that General Bagby said is that it really starts with the national security picture here. Is what we're trying to do is we're trying to grow the next generation of scientists and engineers for the nation. And how do you do that? So at the high level, that's the national security area that I work for the government, with the government. Now we're down here, and what I would say is based on all the changes out there, what we're trying to do here is you start with a gap. Part of the gap is that a lot of the research funding has been taken and changed and diverted from this administration. Not negative, and I'm being nonpartisan apolitical, but it has changed. So how do you generate the next generation of scientists and engineers in a reduced economic environment? So there's a gap now that needs to be filled. And we have to be a little bit more precise on how we go and how we look at how we're going to perform in the future. So there is a requirement to help our universities, to help our next generation to grow for the future. So in the old days, when you think about it, and I've watched the program set up, I used to run the HBCU program for the Army. There was 101 HBCUs. We didn't even have visibility over all the HBCUs. And then we at first when we started, so we started getting the database there, and we found out how many were able to compete for government projects. And we found that 80% of the funding for HBCUs went to 3 major universities. Pretty close to Washington, by the way, and I'll let you figure those out. Now, how did we disperse and get a diversity of thought across all our HBCUs? Right. So then we started looking at what were the technical qualifications, and I think that Ms. Warwick said it. You have STEAM and STEM programs. Many in the liberal arts, some degrees can't compete for the science and technology, so it allows you as a university to look at other mechanisms. But in the STEAM and STEM, we tried to reinforce the effort more in those areas so that now you could compete for government contracts. So I think this body allows to see visibility over what's out there in terms of requirements. And where I've seen the failures in the past in some of the programs is universities focus where the funding is, which is 60% of the funding goes to basic science. Many of the contracts were for an end product. Therefore, there's a big gap in the technical readiness and the progression of a thought, an idea, or concept. And frankly, it's very tough to get there. So what we have to do is organize around this thing called basic science, optimize all the opportunities to gain visibility there, and then fix that gap also, which is the contract writing, because that's what hurts a lot of universities and from a time standpoint, from an expertise and tying up a professor's time. So there's a continuum of a science, a technology, and a capability, and we want to focus here on the science with the universities and find them the funding for that. So as we think about it, one of the things that I've watched a lot of the larger universities, as I've been on many boards for universities. They've changed their business model. And the business model is not just on the academics, but it's how do they transition what they develop on their IP with the private sector. So as you're out there, the partnerships that you heard Dr. McCarty talk about, the public-private partnerships, we even added a fourth, philanthropy. We need those great donors who are interested in the future of the next generation. But in those public-private partnerships, sometimes it's better that we help align a university with an industry or with a 501c3 that can transition the technology, right? So as we think through it, what we're trying to do is give other opportunities to compete for contracts in other means and methods. So the partnerships with a 501c3 is one of those ways. The other things are there is the great ideas don't have to come from what the government produces in an RFP. The great ideas can come from that individual student who's got a brilliant idea, and it's not a request from the government. We want to think about doing an unsolicited proposal for that student and submit it through the right channels. And there's different entry points to where the technology is and different points depending on the technical field and sector. And that's things that we can help do and help you guide through that process. So the other thing that I will just talk about is, about all the accelerators out there. Many of those accelerators on step one will ask for just a quad chart. We'll say, fill out this one page and put it in front of the accelerator, and let's see if it's something that they want to pursue. So it's very easy prior to the full submission of a technology and things of that nature. So I will hand off that comment. I will also refresh that this group right here, with the ERICC and CRC roundtable, there's a whole bunch for internships that I know a lot of the universities don't know of. Each of the labs from the services have a very robust internship program. And if we can get the kids to those internship programs, they many times can get a lot of their funding paid for from those research centers. And then a lot of times those same research centers will give an offer to the student whether he wants to transition and become a government employee. So I want to let you know some of those things that we know that we want to help and assist from our standpoint and how we help grow the next generation. And I will now please hand off to Ms. Easter for your comments.
Okay, so I wanted to also just piggyback on what my colleagues have shared. First of all, I am Ernestine Easter. I'm a former program director of the National Science Foundation, and I managed multiple portfolios, one of which was the HBCU undergraduate program, where I managed a portfolio for broadening participation research. I managed a whole portfolio on workforce development research, where I work with statisticians, workforce development specialists, mathematicians, and anyway, just dealing with all of the issues about how do you invest in a workforce that's going to be responsive to national needs and all of that stuff. And so anyway, very, very broad portfolio that I managed at the National Science Foundation, but I was also formerly vice chancellor, the first vice chancellor for research at North Carolina A&T State University. And I worked in research administration also at Georgia Tech. So that's my story. So I wanted to kind of piggyback on what my colleagues have already shared with you and just reiterate the fact that emerging research institutions are really on the radar for just about every federal agency, all of them. And they're being very intentional about publishing solicitations, all kinds of program announcements and other terms that are applied to the same thing, to invite these institutions to join all of the other institutions that are submitting proposals and to to make their contribution to both R&D, to the technologies that could become the next innovation, all of these things, but they're inviting them. So I just put the logo for just some of them up here. We see the Department of Defense up here too, National Science Foundation, NIH, as well as NASA. And so what do they use as the basis for making sure that there are programs that could attract emerging research institutions? Well, they're still using the CHIPS and Science Act. And then there are a number of other policy reports that support growing these investments in emerging research institutions. And some of these programs do support, as you can see on here, both basic and applied research. They support fundamental research, but they also support a lot of workforce development across every imaginable discipline. And I can tell you that generally, I know for the NSF, when we use the word STEM, that truly is inclusive of social sciences, including economics and anthropology. So it's a very, very broad definition. I want to give you just a snapshot of some funding opportunities so that you can see what is the emphasis then for some of these open announcements where they're inviting proposals. At the NSF, one of those is this it's called Training-Based Workforce Development for Advanced Cyber Infrastructure. So I would say that what you're going to see with all of these is that emerging research institutions really are going to have to begin understanding the culture of these various funding agencies. And that's because you're going to have to respond to that culture. If you submit a proposal, it's got to be culturally responsive, which means the language even that you use in the body of a proposal has to be something that fits the culture of that particular organization and that particular program. So you can see that in this program announcement from the NSF, there's an opportunity to focus on doing some innovations with the curriculum so that you can focus on core literacy skills in advanced cyber infrastructure. And we all know, as you've heard before, that these programs now, all of them, are having to respond to the current administration's funding priorities. Every one of them has to. And so that's why you're going to see a lot of them using terms like cyber infrastructure, artificial intelligence, anything that can connect to artificial intelligence, is a big buzzword now and is competitive. So we got to think about how is it that the programs that you have on your campuses could somehow be tweaked. And when I say tweaking, being creative to use processes like convergent research. And that is, you start blending disciplines instead of just saying that, I've got this Department of Economics that's doing traditional economics. There is a way to begin blending economics with computer science and, data analytics to come up with a new nomenclature for that same department. So this is what I'm saying, that we have to begin thinking now creatively about how you can position yourself using these funding opportunities to help you build capacity, somehow change the nomenclature that you're using, even for some courses and degree programs on the campuses, so that you can be competitive. NIH has a SURE program, and whenever you see the term investigator-initiated research, that's an opportunity for emerging institutions to look at faculty members that may have some specific expertise. They just need to now begin to get some seed funding to grow a niche in a research niche, perhaps on that campus, that could be used to expand partnerships and collaborations with other faculty and other institutions. So if it's investigator initiated, they're asking for these faculty members now to basically come up with an idea that's going to be competitive. NASA again, is similar to what the Department of Defense focuses on also, and that is how can we invest in the future workforce that could become a part of the NASA's workforce with the skills now, those future skills that NASA is seeking. So they've got programs that allow institutions to develop these workforce development opportunities for students, say engineering students, but I suspect it would be practically any discipline is relevant to NASA. Department of Defense instrumentation fund. So that will enable institutions to also do capacity building so that you can develop these sophisticated laboratories, specialized laboratories that faculty and students can use to do some of the research that these agencies are asking to have done. So I'm just sharing this with you so that you can see there's such a wide array of opportunities, such a wide array of entry points for faculty at emerging research institutions. So what could be some the potential benefits of an emerging research institution's resource center? Well, you've already heard my colleagues already say that it could enable you to be competitive, to develop these competitive responses to funding opportunities. It actually could provide even post-award. You heard Lonnie Sharp talk about the importance of being good stewards of the funds that you receive, whether they're via a contract or a grant. However, you've got to be a good steward of it. But then, in fact, that's not intuitive all of the time for faculty members. So a center like this could help faculty members even go beyond the responsibilities of the institutions to manage federal funds according to the policies and procedures, all the regulations that apply to that. But faculty members become project directors. So they have to manage a project, meaning a research team and all of the things in between. So a resource center like this could help faculty members develop systems using tools, all kinds of tools to help them to be successful as project directors too. And you've heard the prior speakers talk about the opportunity to build different kinds of partnerships and collaborations. And the reason that you want to do that is that networks tend to spawn other networks. And so all of these networks collaboratively now are making a much wider impact on that particular maybe science or that particular technology or whatever. So that's why the Resource Center could be very pivotal in that regard. But it also positions institutions to respond to national priorities. I already mentioned all of the ones that are on the radar right now for just about all of the federal agencies. They don't have a choice. They're going to have to respond to national priorities. These do change. And so the way that they respond to the national priorities is to make sure that these program announcements allow institutions to come up with creative ideas to help these agencies respond to national priorities. So, and of course, a resource center like this could in itself be an experiment because it could show just some examples of, just what develop these different communities of practice for capacity building that could be used for different groups of institutions. Could be, institutions that may be focusing more on agricultural sciences or something like that. But if you wanted to segment them, then what would be evidence-based practices and methods for building capacity among groups of institutions? So a resource center like this could contribute to that knowledge base also. So that's basically what I wanted to share.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Easter. TCRDF has an excellent partnership with Georgia Tech Research Institute. And Dr. Tom Martin is going to come now and talk a bit about that and host some questions. Tom? Well, it appears as though Dr. Martin is having some technical issues with his computer. So while he is coming aboard, I'd just like to thank you all for being on the call again. And when Tom is available, we'll listen to Tom whenever you are. But the general idea here is for the Shared Services Center to be just that, a center that can share services with you, to build partnerships. And the presenters from today are part of the TCRDF ecosystem and are available to work with you to build your partnership, to provide, as Dr. McCarty said early on, the individual support plan to find out exactly where your pain points are, to see what resources we can bring to the table, not necessarily from the TCRDF team, but from the networks that these other institutions can bring as well.
Excellent. All right. Sorry about that. That was some audio issues just calling in via the phone versus my computer. But good afternoon. I'm Tom Martin. I'm with Georgia Tech Research Institute, and I wanted to just talk about a couple topics here. First, I wanted to talk about what GTRI is versus Georgia Tech very quickly. I want to talk about the Workforce Development Task Order that we've been operating under for 5 years and the history of collaboration that we have had with TCRDF. So at a real high level, Georgia Institute of Technology on the left is your typical university that does education. It's got students, faculty, sports teams, dormitories, and so forth. GTRI on the right is Georgia Tech Research Institute is a unit within Georgia Tech, and they're what's called an applied research organization that mostly does work with the Department of Defense. So on the left-hand side, the university works on grants. We work mostly on contracts. The thing that I want to highlight is, even though Georgia Tech is a large R1 institution, GTRI, within it, we do 3 times more contracts or more research in terms of dollars. We have 3 times more dollars of research than the regular Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech does a significant amount anyway. So, and the reason being is that we are plugged into the Department of Defense, and there is a lot of opportunities there. So, one thing I want to talk about is just contracting, comparing contracting. The left-hand side, is a typical university that works with, grants, the funding, you get an annual lump sum, you're talking more about effort reporting. But the problem is that if you have a work breakdown structure of work from, say, the DoD, there's some invoicing, becomes problematic there. GTRI does mostly federal contracts, which there's a significant amount of work and dollars in that. There's some slightly different regulations there. The invoice and billing is more complex, and you have to deal with contract line items. The faculty comparison can be a little bit different. We have dedicated faculty that focus on applied research. We do sometimes have teaching opportunities, but mostly U.S. citizens. But we do have a blend, mostly U.S. citizens, but we do have some other faculty from, who are non-U.S. citizens. But there's definitely, some differences there that we had to identify. Security, I'm not going to go into all of that, but mostly your typical university is more open research. It's all about publishing. Some of what GTRI does, we have to have some IT infrastructure and are focused on that. And then I'm not going to get into this, but I can share this information with others later on if they want to know. But, typically you start with open source. You sometimes have to be aware of, ITAR issues, and then controlled unclassified information and classified. So we, working with GTRI with Georgia Tech, there is a synergy there that we've developed, and we've been working with other universities to try to help them understand the differences. Lastly, I want to talk about the diverse workforce development contract that we were awarded 5 years ago. It was funded by the U.S. Army Combat Capabilities Development Command, also called DEVCOM. TCRDF has been an integral partner with us from day one, and we've leveraged their advisory board to provide a holistic DoD engagement. So in conclusion, we've been partnered with TCRDF for approximately 5 years. We've had a proven track record together, providing the following tasks of holding outreach research partnership events, helping to ensure successful execution on federal contracts through that partnership development, definitely engaging with the Department of Defense, helping with government contracting, IT and security requirements, and then even GTRI, we have our own internal funding, which we call IRAD, Internal Research and Development Funding, and we have done collaborative research with different institutions together, and that funding comes from GTRI. So we reach out to different institutions and build relationships through that funding and research mechanism. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and I hope that was a pretty fast run through everything, but I think I had until 4:57. So does that? So at this point, I think, John, I think at this point we're about in the Q&A session. I believe, is that true?
We are in the Martin, you're in the Q&A session. We ask people for 1 hour of their time, and we are at the 58-minute mark. So why don't we wrap up now? If there's some burning questions, if you'd like to put them in chat, we can hang around past the 5 o'clock mark if anyone would like to. But this concludes our presentation. And what the one takeaway we want you to keep with you is that TCRDF is about building partnerships to help the smaller partner reach its goals. We build true partnerships. True partnerships means that side of the table benefits from the partnership. We build and we monitor partnerships. We don't manage the partnerships, we monitor the partnerships. We play the honest broker part to make sure that each side does its part. And where there are any difficulties or shortcomings, we are there to see if we can't alleviate those particular incidents. We are now asking those of you who would love to become part of this, who would like to become part of this center, to let us know. As Dr. McCarty said, the next step would be for us to have a detailed call with you. We will develop a visual support plan based on the particular requirements of the entity. And then we will pull together a team. And that team will include some of the individuals you've seen today. They could include a majority serving institution. It will include a federal contractor. They may include a philanthropic group. And that team would be your team that will focus on your needs. And will help you meet your goals. We focus primarily, almost exclusively on the STEM area. And that's where we have our own experiences in the STEM area. However, if your interest is outside the STEM, then our goal would be to try to find you the partners as well, to build the teams for you to help you reach your particular goals. We are, according to my clock, it's 5 o'clock in the East. Thank you all so much for joining us today. The slides will be available. Someone asked if we can get the slides. Yes, we will make the slides available. And if there are any questions or comments, please respond to Dr. McCarty or me. I almost call myself Dr. McCarty. Respond to Dr. McCarty or respond to info@tcrdf.org. Thank you. We wish you well and hope you have a great day.